Hi, Pipe. Welcome to class. Can you hear and see me? So welcome to another Linguistiko class. This class is called Future Plans and Retirement. So we'll be talking about how to form the future tense and different plans for retirement and what it's like to retire in different countries around the world. Hi, Fernando. Welcome to class.
Hello.
Hi. Pipe? No, I can't hear you. Okay, so like I said, this is called Future Plans and Retirement. So we're going to talk about how to form future tenses of different verbs and different ways to talk about the future. So not only using the future tense, which is typically be going to or will do, but also ways to predict things in the future, to state preferences in the future, and to say things that you would like to do in the future, things that you're thinking of doing, things that you're looking forward to doing, different phrases that project ideas into the future. And we're also going to touch briefly on different future forms. So that means the future perfect and the future continuous. So to say things like, by next year, I will have completed my degree. Or next Tuesday at noon, I will be eating lunch. Things like that. Okay. So, Fernando, do you have any experience with forming verbs in the future? Do you know how to make sentences in the future?
Yes, well, I think I know. I mean, I will make sure about it. I don't know. In this class, I have an idea.
Okay, so what did you learn to form sentences in the future? How do you form a sentence in the future? Would you use be going to, will?
Well,
if you wanted to talk about next year, for example, what would you say?
Okay, it depends because what I read before is like if the future is kind of uncertain. I mean, it's just a kind of probability, but you're not so sure. You use will. For instance, I will go to the cinema this Friday, but that is when you are not completely sure about that. It is a possibility. But if you have something that you can say that is for sure, for instance, like you have booked a flight to somewhere because you already have the ticket, you will say, I'm going to Argentina next year, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. Yeah, so actually, if we're talking about the future tense, they're both pretty certain if we use will or be going to. So one of the things we're going to do in class is talk about other ways to project into the future that are less certain. Talk about plans, talk about things you would like to do. So yeah, so there's will and be going to. Those are the sort of conventional future tenses. So Pipe, can you hear me now? Can you speak? Make sure.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Welcome.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, Fernando.
Hello.
Hi. Where are you from? Where do you live?
I'm from Colombia and I live in Bogota.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the conventional future tense. So be going to and will. So talking about the future. So there are two standard future tenses, which I said before and Fernando mentioned. Be going to plus the verb and will plus the verb. So both have essentially the same meaning as they talk about plans, and they indicate a future action that will take place, that is going to take place. So I think that the form will plus the verb is more definite, and be going to is used more commonly for plans that aren't necessarily true. So if I say, I will go tomorrow, that's saying that I definitely will. Or if I say, I'm going to go tomorrow, it has essentially the same meaning, but is a little less certain, but very, very small amount. They essentially have the same meaning. So be going to plus verb only needs you to conjugate the verb to be and then use the infinitive. So it's pretty straightforward. Fernando, could you read the first example for eat?
Okay, for sure. I'm going to eat dinner at 5 o'clock tomorrow night.
Good. And Pipe, could you read the next one for a walk?
Okay. He's going to walk to school next week.
Good. And then I'll read the last one. We are going to talk about it the next time we meet. Okay. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. All you have to do is conjugate to be. So am, when you're using I, is for he, she, it, and are for plural, so they or we. So this is the first example of talking about the future. Fernando, can you think of an example using be going to?
Okay. I'm going to have a class in a few hours.
Perfect, good. And Pipe, could you think of an example? Is your name Pipe? Am I saying it right?
My name is Oscar, but my email account is with Pipe, so I think before
Okay,
that.
I'll call you Oscar.
But
Okay.
one of them is good, don't worry.
Okay, so Oscar, can you think of an example for be going to?
Okay, I think I'm going to eat a dessert in the night at night.
At night, perfect, good. Okay, so pretty straightforward, be going to. The other option is will. So will is even easier, but has similar rules for conjugation. So you combine the infinitive form of the verb with will. So the nice thing about using will is that it's the same for every subject. So whereas with to be going to, you have to conjugate the verb to be, right? So I am, we are, she is. But with will, it's always the same. So for example, Fernando, could you read the first one? Ask.
Okay. I'll ask him tomorrow about his plans for the building.
Good. And Oscar, could you read the second one for sit?
Of course. They will sit in the auditorium before the lecture starts.
Good. And then Fernando, could you read the last one for sleep and be?
Okay. He will sleep more next week. He will sleep more next week since the construction will be over.
Good. Good. So that one we've got two examples: will, sleep, and will be. Good. Okay. So that one's even more simple because you don't have to conjugate the verb. So Fernando, can you think of an example for will? Will plus verb?
Okay. Next weekend, I will go to play paintball with my friends.
Good. And then what about you, Oscar? Can you think of an example for will?
Tomorrow I will go to the office.
Good. Perfect. Okay, good job. So just to reinforce that, we're going to do a little worksheet. So future tense. So we're going to choose between be going to and will, not the present continuous. So Fernando, could you read number one?
Okay. Laura will go to London next week.
Good. Laura will go to London next week. Oscar, could you read number two?
We are going to have a party next Saturday.
Good. We are going to have. We're going to have a party next Saturday. Good. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so it works. Okay, we're going to have number three. Fernando?
Okay. I hope it will rain during the holidays.
Good. I hope it will. I hope it will rain during the holidays. Okay. Number four, Oscar.
We are going to organize a trip next weekend.
Good. I'm going to organize. Sorry about this text. I can't find a way to make it smaller.
Okay, don't worry.
Nope. Okay. Okay. Are going to organize. Good job. Can you read number five?
Okay.
Fernando? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hot. I'm going to open the windows.
Good. I'm going to open the windows. Yeah, no, I can't find it. Okay. I am going to open the windows. Okay. Number six.
They will go on a school trip tomorrow.
Good. They will go on a school trip tomorrow. We can just speak. Okay. Number 7, Fernando.
Okay. I can go with you this afternoon. I'm going to the dentist.
Good. Perfect. I'm going to the dentist. Good. Number 8, Oscar.
I have to search information about Africa. I will help you.
Good. I will help you. Number 9, Fernando.
Why are you wearing trainers? Because I will play tennis.
Good. Because I will play tennis, or because I'm going to play tennis. Good. Number 10, Oscar.
In the future, the rainforest no, it's
Yeah, so try to do it without completely, and then we'll try to figure out where completely
okay.
goes. So it would just disappear.
In the future, the rainforest will disappear.
Good. So when we add an adverb, it's going to be the rainforest will completely disappear. So in
Okay.
between will and the verb. Whenever we need an adverb with ly. Good. Number 11, Fernando.
Okay. Peter is very pale. He will faint.
Good. He will faint, or he is going to faint. Good. Number 12, Oscar.
I am going to meet my friends tonight.
Good. Perfect. And 13, Fernando.
The teacher is really angry with Tom. He's going to call his parents.
Good. And the next one, Oscar.
Watch out, you are going to fall over.
Good. And finally, number 15, Fernando.
Okay. What are your plans for next summer? I will visit my grandparents in Bristol.
Good. Perfect. Okay. Good job, guys. Any questions so far? Those are the 2 basic, standard ways to talk about the future. Any questions, Fernando?
No, I have no questions.
No? Okay. How about you, Oscar? Any questions?
Well, if I want to refer to something for sure in the future, so I have to use will or going to?
So they both have very similar meanings. So you can use both. So what do you want to say? You could say next year I will study more. Or next year I'm going to study more. They're both right. They both mean that something is anticipated for the future and like confirmed going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions? Doubts?
No, it's okay.
Nope. Okay, good. So those are the 2 basic forms. So now we're going to talk about some other ways to project into the future. So this class is called Future Plans and Retirement. So we're going to be focusing on examples that have to do with retirement. So let's take a look at the other ways that aren't the 2 basic ways. Okay. So we've got, one second. So this is will. Oh, okay. Talking about the future. In this class, we're going to focus on different ways to talk about the future. To plan, predict, to wonder, to talk about what you want to do, a preference. So there are other ways to do this. So we can use things like I would like to, I'm looking forward to, I want to, I might, I'm thinking of. So these 5 phrases are different ways to talk about, for example, things you want, right? I would like to, you can express a desire. I'm looking forward to, something that is exciting in the future that you want to happen. I want to, similar to I would like to, right? A preference, a desire. I might is something that's unsure in the future, right? I might travel to Rio in March, but I'm not sure. So it's a plan, but with less certainty. than using will or be going to. And I'm thinking of is even more far so removed, right? A plan, but a plan that is very much in the beginning stages, right? So I'm thinking of traveling in July, but that's really far away, so I'm not going to use anything definitive. So these are 5 different phrases we can use to talk about the future, but some of them we're going to use with the infinitive, and others we're going to use the gerund. So the gerund means ing, right? And the infinitive is what comes after to, right? So to sit, to eat. So in order to find out which ones we use the infinitive with and which ones we use the gerund with, I'm going to pull up some examples. We're going to read them and discuss and try to distinguish which goes with which. So which phrases we use the gerund and the ing, and which phrases we use the infinitive. So, Oscar, could you read the first sentence here?
Okay. I would like to take an art history course.
Good. Fernando, the second one?
I'm thinking of learning Spanish and Portuguese.
Good. And Oscar, the third?
I want to travel the world.
Okay. And Fernando?
Yes, I might go to bed at 11 tonight.
Good. And Oscar?
I'm looking forward to spending time with children.
Good. And Fernando?
Yes, I would like to see you more.
Good. And Oscar?
I want to sit down during the movie.
Good. And Fernando?
I'm thinking of canceling the show.
Perfect. And Oscar?
I'm looking forward to being at home tomorrow night.
Good. And then Fernando, the last one.
Okay, I might see you tomorrow.
Good. Okay, so as you can both see, some of these utilize the ing gerund ending with the phrase, and some use the infinitive. So, Fernando, which ones use the infinitive?
Are the ones that are not after the verb be.
Sorry?
Are those ones without the be conjugated in the sentence?
Yes, so are you asking or saying? Sorry, so the infinitive means, right, like sit, to eat.
Okay, yeah, in this case, the infinitive is after, it's after those ones, like are modal, could be like modal verbs, I think, or but, and after the modal verbs like would, want, might. So after those modal verbs, you use the infinitive form.
Okay, so I was just asking, yeah, so then which sentences utilize the infinitive? Does this one?
Yes.
Good, okay, what other ones?
I want to travel the world. I might go to the bed at 11 tonight. I would like to see you more. I want to sit down during the movie. I might see you tomorrow.
Good, perfect. Awesome. And then Oscar, which sentences utilize the gerund form, the ing?
Okay, I'm thinking of learning Spanish and Portuguese.
Good, I'm thinking of learning.
I'm looking forward to spending time with my children.
Perfect.
I'm thinking of canceling the show.
Good.
I'm looking forward to being at home tomorrow night.
Being. Good. Okay, so then which phrases do we use ing gerund after? So for example, learning, right? So that's I'm thinking of. So whenever we use I'm thinking of, we follow it with the gerund. What other phrase do we follow with the gerund?
I'm looking forward.
I'm looking forward to. Good. So those are the two we're going to use with ing. I'm thinking of and I'm looking forward to. Okay. So any questions on that so far? Fernando, any questions?
Is okay, the ing form will follow I'm thinking of, for instance, but it's just because it's a kind of rule just special for I'm thinking of and the other one, or it's just as a kind of more general rule that, for instance, after the verb be form, in this case I'm, as something else, I will use the ing form.
So just with these phrases, so I'm just focusing on these 5 phrases because it's sometimes tricky to know when to use the infinitive and when to use the gerund. But generally, as you can see, I think it was 3 out of the 5 phrases, we use the infinitive. And then with these 2, which are special cases, we use the infinitive. Yeah, so with these particular phrases. So I'm thinking of, I'm looking forward to. And a good trick to remember that is that those phrases utilize the gerund themselves, right? I'm thinking of, right? And I'm looking forward to.
Okay.
It's just like kind of a helpful way to remember that if you're going to preface something with that, what follows is also going to be in the gerund form. Whereas the others don't utilize the gerund form, right? I might do this. I would like to do this, right? There's no gerund in the actual phrase.
Okay,
Is that
nice.
clear? Any other questions?
No, just that one.
Okay, good. What about you, Oscar? Any questions? Any doubts?
No, it's okay.
No? Okay, then Oscar, could you think of an example of a sentence that utilizes the ing and then an example of a sentence that utilizes the infinitive?
Okay, for example, I'm looking forward to speaking with my mom.
Good, perfect. I'm looking forward to speaking. Okay.
I would like to travel next year.
I would like to travel next year. Perfect, awesome. What about you, Fernando? Can you think of one example of each?
Yes. I'm looking forward having a chat with you.
I'm looking forward to. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having. Good.
I'm looking forward to having a chat with you, and I would like to learn English.
Good, and I would like to learn English. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, good. So we're clear on that. So now we're going to do an exercise that's reading about someone's retirement plans. So all of the verbs, or most of the verbs, are taken out, and in parentheses we have the verb we need to use. And we're going to decide if we have to put the verb in the infinitive form or in the gerund ing form. Okay?
Okay.
So we're going to alternate sentences between you two. So I'm going to pull this up. Okay, so let's read my retirement plans. Okay. Fernando, could you read the first sentence? Or the first 2? Up to you.
Okay. Okay. I can wait to be retired. I'm going to have so much time on my hands.
Good. The infinitive form. I'm going to have so much time on my hands. Good. Oscar, could you read the next 2 sentences?
Okay. It's hard to decide what I'll do with myself. I'm thinking of traveling around the world.
Good.
It's something I've always wanted to do.
Perfect. And the next sentence, Fernando?
Okay. It's something I've always wanted to do. I might go to Asia or South Africa.
South America. Good. Okay. And then the next sentence, Oscar?
First, I'm going to take some basic language classes talk, so I'll be able to get around and learn more about local culture.
Good. Good job. The infinitive form take. Good. And Fernando, could you read the next? Could you just finish the paragraph?
Okay. I'm planning on starting with Spanish.
Okay.
And I also really want to learn how to speak Japanese. It's going to be difficult, but what else am I going to do? It's always been a personal dream of mine.
Good. Good job. Okay, so starting, the gerund form with planning on. Perfect. And then could you read the next sentence, Oscar?
Okay, once I learned the basics of Spanish, I want to travel to Machu Picchu in Peru, Patagonia in the south of Chile and Argentina, and to the parks in Colombia.
Good, perfect. The infinitive form, right? Travel. Good. Could you read the next two sentences, Fernando?
Okay, I'm thinking of getting around by bus.
Good. Getting around. Oops.
Getting around by bus. I am a little worried about my physical state, since I won't have that young body anymore.
Good. So I'm thinking of getting around, right? Good. So the phrasal verb get around, and in the gerund form getting. Good. I'm thinking of getting. Good. Okay. Could you read the last sentence, Oscar?
Okay, I'm excited and I am planning on having the best time of my life.
Good. I'm planning on having the best time of my life. Perfect. Good. Okay. So Oscar, are there any words or phrases in this reading that are new? Any words you didn't understand?
No, it's okay.
No? Okay. What about you, Fernando? Any new phrases or vocabulary?
Yes. I mean, again, I just want to make sure about getting around. It's like going to know something. I mean, going around your place or something like that.
Yeah, so traveling from place to place to get around.
Okay, nice.
Good. Anything else?
No, just that one.
No, just that. Okay, great. Good. Okay, so how was that? Any questions on the difference? Is it clear the difference between when we use the infinitive and when we use the gerund?
Yep.
Yep, clear? Okay, good. Fernando, all good?
So I think so. I mean, I'm not completely sure. I just to add the gerund. I mean, I'm just looking for how it sounds. I mean, I know that after two always goes the infinitive, but there are others that I mean you put the infinitive, but without the two, right?
Right, so you mean like might? So the
Uh-huh.
difference between like I would like to do something and I might do? That?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's important, it's tricky because when we teach infinitives, we usually teach them with to, right? To eat, to sit. But if we're talking about conjugations and we use the infinitive form, it just means what comes after the to. So when I say infinitive form, it just means eat or sit.
Okay.
Without the to. So I just as a better way to think of it. So like, for example, when we talked about conjugating verbs using will, right? We don't use the to, right? I will go to bed. I will see you, right? We don't use the to. So it's important to, when you think of the infinitive form, to think of it without the to, and then think of the phrases as what includes the to. So when you think of the two options for future, think of it as be going to and will. That way you know that both of those phrases use the infinitive form, but only one uses to because it's part of the phrase.
Okay, nice.
Does that make sense? So that's the same difference as saying I would like to as the phrase, and then plus the infinitive, right? Infinitive. And then saying I might as the phrase, and then plus the infinitive.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. It's tricky because when we teach infinitives, we teach it with the to. Yeah, and then the same thing with making command form, right? The command form is the same thing as the infinitive, but without the to, right? So if I say eat more fruit or stop walking, right? Stop and eat are technically the infinitive form, but we don't use to.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Is that clear?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Good. Okay, and then what about you, Oscar? Any questions?
No, it's okay.
Okay, good. Okay, so now we're going to focus on retirement. So that was the story of someone's plans for what they do when they're retired. So, Oscar, what does it mean to be retired?
It's when you stop working, and maybe you want to spend your time in another activities like practicing a new sport or traveling, but basically it's when you retire for your job.
Exactly, yes. So when you stop working, so people are usually older, really. If you retire early, you could be younger, but people generally retire after a lifetime of work. Exactly. Good. So then, at what age do people usually retire in Colombia?
There is a law, I don't remember, like 62? I
62?
62, yeah.
Cool. What about you, Fernando? What age do people usually retire at in El Salvador?
Yeah, about 62 or 65 years old.
Cool. And then, so Oscar, do you know anyone who's retired? Do you have like a relative or a friend or a grandpa who's retired?
Some friends, they are retired, so I know them.
How, sorry?
Yeah, I know a few of them.
Cool. How old are they?
They are very, like at 70.
70.
Okay.
So what do they do with their time? Do
Well,
they watch
that's to
TV?
spend,
Do they do sports? Do they take classes?
I think they like to spend time with the family, traveling, basically that those things.
And what? Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
Those things. I mean, traveling
Mm-hmm.
and spend time with family, and maybe
Spend time with
helping
family.
more in some things that they work in the past. So basically, it's those activities.
Cool. Awesome. So, hi Caesar. Welcome to class.
Hi.
Hi. So this class is about future plans and retirement. So we just went over formations in the future, how to talk in the future with will, be going to, and we read a short text about retirement plan. So Caesar, do you know what it means to retire?
To stop working, I think.
To stop working and live off of savings? Exactly. Good. So Fernando, do you know anyone who's retired?
Well, yes. For instance, I got some neighbors that are already retired, and well, they expend their time. I know. I just know that they like to go out very often. I mean, they go to different places, and I don't know what else.
Do you know
I
how old they
talk.
are?
Yes, they are 60. They are 65 and 68.
65 and 68. Cool. So they go out, have a good time, relax.
Yeah, definitely. They have a very kind of quiet or peaceful time. I mean, a lifestyle is.
Lifestyle. Cool, good. So what about you, Caesar? Do you know anybody who is retired? A family member, a friend, neighbor?
Yes, I think I know someone. But it's a woman. She's about 60 years old. Well, I'm not sure actually, but she's very old.
What time do people usually retire in Peru?
65.
65. Okay, yeah, so generally the same. In the US, it's more or less 65 as well. Cool.
Yeah, I think that in
So,
every country is the same, right?
yeah, more or less. Good. Okay, so then, Oscar, what are the good things and what are the bad things about being retired? Are there advantages, disadvantages? What do you think?
Okay, I think the advantages is like obviously you have more time to spend in other things, maybe in things that you can't do it when you were working. Maybe spend time with your family, traveling, know places. But I think the disadvantage is if you were a very active person, maybe you're going to feel uh, Like you don't have to do anything. You are going to be bored.
Bored, yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely a real possibility, right? So the pro is that you have all the time in the world, but it's also kind of a con because what do you do with yourself? Exactly.
exactly.
Good. Okay. What about you, Fernando? What do you think the good things and the bad things are for being retired? Anything
I th
that Oscar didn't mention?
yes, more likely what Oscar said because I think it's fine at the beginning because you say, okay, now I can rest, I can have a good time, I will have a lot of time to do what I want to, but after maybe some years you start getting bored. I mean, you start getting bored because you say, okay, now I did all I wanted. I visit my friend, I visit my family, I have traveled. Now I don't know what else, but you start to asking now what I'm going to do, right? And so it's the kind of yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
get
so,
bored.
so you mentioned some good activities, right, of common things people do when they retire. They travel, right, spend time with family, friends, family. A lot of people also go back to school, right, or take courses, right, get another degree because they have the time. Other people can like do hobbies, right? So people have hobbies like knitting or doing a sport.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Or volunteer, right? Volunteer in some sort of field either related to their previous work or something that they're interested in, like a hobby. Good. Okay, so then Caesar, do you have any other ideas about good and bad things about being retired? Or more or less the same as what Oscar and Fernando said?
Well, yes, actually, at that age, you will definitely get bored. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you were working all your life, probably you will be uh, relaxing for just some months probably, but then you will probably need to work again. But because you have been accustomed to be, moving, working, so probably, as you said, yes, some old people will start to do something else, something that they can enjoy doing
Mm-hmm.
for pleasure,
Exactly.
for money.
Okay. Good. Yeah. So you mentioned money, right? So that could be a problem. So that could be a disadvantage depending on how you save for retirement, like how you prepare for retirement. If you've been putting aside money and then you have it to live off of, sometimes people run out of money during retirement, which is scary. Another thing, my personal opinion, is that the great thing about being retired is you have all this time, you can do whatever you want. But the bad thing is that you're you're old, right? You're not as young as you were before, and so certain things like doing sports or traveling become a lot more difficult because you might have health problems. Your body's not the same as it was when you were younger, so it might be really nice to say, "Oh, I'm going to travel the world." But if you have trouble walking, if you have back problems, it's not actually as easy as it seems if you're 87 or old like 65 or older. That's what I think. That's my personal opinion. So what do you guys want to do when you're retired? Oscar, do you have any plans for when you retire?
Well, I've I've not
Hypothetically, ideally, what would you do with your
I'm
time?
not talking that, but
Hmm?
I would like to maybe travel to some countries,
Where
uh,
would you travel? What countries?
very very far countries from here. I think like
Like where?
Indonesia or
Like
something like that.
Japan?
Yeah,
Where?
and maybe practice some sports like
Mhm.
baseball. I would like to do that.
Cool. Sounds good. What about you, Fernando? Any plans? Any ideas?
Well, honestly, I have never thought about it
No.
before, but knowing myself, I will try. I will travel a lot because I love traveling. I love going to different places to meet different people. I don't know. I will try to travel a lot. Yes.
Mhm. Cool. Anywhere in specific that you want to go? Any countries?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of them. I mean, I wanna, well, could be after or before retirement. I hope before retirement because I really would love to go to Brazil because I don't know Brazil. I would like to go to England, to Japan. I mean, those countries are also. I would like to go to New York because I never been there, so I wanna go there.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds good. What about you, Caesar? What would you do if you were retired? Would you want to travel, do a hobby, learn something new?
Well, actually, as my partner said, I haven't thought about it. But
But
I
now,
know,
yeah.
yes, but I know people who are well more than 65, and well, they are retired already, but they still have that energy to keep on doing things, and most
About doing work or just
specifically,
other things?
no, but I mean, this is something you've been spending all your life working for you, for you, for you, for you, for you, only for you. But these people I know, okay, in a part of their life they've been working for them, but I mean now that they don't have anything else to do, now they spend their time serving others and teaching them, their experiences, how to live a good life. So I mean, they stop living for themselves and living for people who really need them.
That's
So,
great,
and they
yeah.
feel with energy, yes, despite of the fact they are old, they look old, but they don't feel old inside.
Well, right. Well, I mean, yeah, so my comment was not like 65, but when you're like 80, 90, certain things become less possible. But so that's why I've had as one of the, in the chat box, one of the like possibilities, right, is people that volunteer. So a lot of people when they retire either volunteer in their community or travel and volunteer in other countries and give their time to other people, which I think is something I respect. Cool. So what I want to do, I want to go back to school when I retire. So I want to learn all the things that I didn't learn during my life that I wish I had. So when I have more time, I'm going to probably go and try to get another degree. So that's my plan. Okay.
Very nice.
So now that we've talked about how to form the future, or the basic future tenses, I'm going to go over some of the more complicated future tenses. So this is the future perfect and the future continuous. So they're more or less similar, right? So the future perfect is a lot like the present perfect, and the future continuous is a lot like the present continuous, but they can be tricky when you're talking about different times in the future. So I'm going to go over this really quickly. Okay. So when we're talking about future events, we also have the future perfect and future continuous. So the future perfect is formed using will have plus the past participle. So this is essentially a combination of the future tense using will plus the verb have and the past participle. So it's essentially the same process as the present perfect, but you don't have to conjugate have or will, right? It's going to be really easy because it's going to be the same verb for every person, right? So for I, you, we, they, it's always going to be will have plus the past participle. So, for example, Caesar, could you read the first example with complete?
Yes, in 2030, I will have completed all my degrees. Can I say will have completed?
Sorry?
Can I say will have?
Will it? How would you spell that?
Like that. Well, just for pronouncing, will have.
Yeah, so this is tricky. So there's a lot of things in English that when we're speaking, we make the contractions, but aren't going to be correct if you write it. So if you're speaking, you can say, I will have done this, but if you're going to write it down, it's not correct to use that contraction. You could say, if you're using I, you could say, I'll have completed, right? Because the contraction between I and will is I'll, right? I-L-L. But will have isn't really correct, even though it's what you'll hear when people are talking.
Okay.
So if you're speaking, it sounds totally right. But if you're writing a document, you're going to want to write it out I will have.
Yeah. Okay, I get it.
Okay. Okay, so then, Oscar, could you read the second example? Start.
Okay. By next year, she will have started the new job.
Good. She will have started the new job. Okay. So as you can tell, this form of verb is used when we're talking about like limits, right? So in 2013, by next year, a helpful word is going to be by. So if you say by and you're talking about the future, it's most likely going to be in the future perfect, right? So like something that is continuous and has an end date, right? So if it's something that you're doing right now, but you will be done, so like by tomorrow I will have written all my classes or something. I will have done all my homework, right? So by tomorrow, or by next year, by 2030, right? By is going to be the key word when you're talking about the difference between the future and the future perfect, right? Because we're talking about limits of time that have to do with continuous action. Does that make sense? Everyone?
Yes.
Yep.
Also,
Yeah,
by
okay,
this time and by this time, I've read that also in the book. By this time tomorrow, I will finish my homework. By this time.
Exactly. By this time tomorrow, by this time next year. So a lot of that you'll hear when people are talking about like resolutions, like New Year's resolutions, right? So the sort of goals that people make every new year. So for 2015, you could have a resolution that says, you know, by this time next year, I will have applied to 20 graduate schools. Right? By this time tomorrow, by this time next week, I will have finished all I had to do. Things like that. Good. Okay, so then Oscar, can you think of an example using the present or the future perfect?
By tomorrow, I will have my duties complete.
I will have past participle.
My
So
duties.
what you just used is just the future, right? I will have my studies complete, but the future perfect, you need the past participle. So you can use all the same words, just switch it around. So I will have
Completed.
completed. I will have completed my studies
Okay.
by tomorrow. Exactly. Good. Okay, Fernando, can you think of an example using the future perfect?
I mean, this time tomorrow I will have taken all my classes.
Okay, perfect. What about you, Caesar? Can you think of an example?
As I have already said my example.
Another
Okay, another one. By tomorrow night, I'll have bought a car.
I
That is an
will
example.
have bought a car. Okay. Good. Some big goals for you. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the future continuous. So again, very similar to the present continuous or the past continuous. So it's formed using will be plus the gerund, right? So as you can tell, both of these forms are really similar to their partner forms in the present, right? And they're particularly simple because it's just using will. So these are combining the future tense will plus infinitive with these other forms. So the future perfect is will have, and the future continuous is will be. So just like the future perfect, luckily since we're using will, it doesn't change based on the subject, based on who you're talking about. So we will be, they will be, she will be. It's always going to be the same, will be, plus the gerund of whatever verb you're talking about. So this makes it a little bit more simple to conjugate it. And the continuous in the future is going to talk about very specific times and things that you will be doing. So you're not going to use, generally you're not going to use the future continuous with really grand statements. They're usually going to be specific, right? So like this time next year, meaning like, you know, January 2016, I will be doing this, right? So the two examples I have very specific times attached to them for this reason. So Oscar, could you read the first one with the verb eat?
Tomorrow at noon, I will be eating lunch with Pablo.
Good. Tomorrow at noon, I will be eating lunch with Pablo. Okay, and then Fernando, could you read the second example with walk?
Yes, at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, she will be walking home from work.
Good, perfect. Okay, so then Caesar, can you think of an example using the future continuous? Something you will be doing in the future?
Okay. Tomorrow at this time, I'll be having lunch.
I will be having lunch. Good. Yep. So as we can see, for the previous one, for the future perfect, by is the key word, right? Like by tomorrow, by next year. Whereas the future continuous, it's going to be at, right? At this time tomorrow, at noon, in a year, right? At, because we're talking about specific times, not long periods of time. We're going to have completed actions. So Oscar, can you think of an example using the future continuous, something you will be doing in the future?
I think 5 o'clock, I will be going to the gym.
At 5 o'clock, I will be going to the gym?
Yep.
Good. And Fernando, can you think of an example?
Yes, tomorrow at evening, I'll be with my friends watching movies.
Good. Tomorrow evening, I will be with my friends watching.
I just want to ask you something about in that sentence. I said tomorrow at evening, but could I omit the at in this case and just say tomorrow evening I'll be?
So actually, yes. So actually, at evening isn't correct. So you can say in the evening. At evening. No. In the evening. Or just tomorrow evening, I will be.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so when I said that at is important, it's not necessary. It's just generally when you're going to talk about specific times, you're going to use at. And the same rule with by for the future perfect. It's not necessary, but it's a helpful indicator of which tense you're going to be using.
Okay, nice.
Okay, so then I'm going to pull up a quick little worksheet. We'll do this quickly because we're almost out of time. Here. Okay, so we're going to pick between future perfect and the future continuous. So number one, Caesar, could you read and complete?
The first one with okay. By the end of this week, I will have read the book.
Good. I will have read the book. Perfect. And number two, Fernando?
Yes. I could go out tonight. I think it'll be. I can go out tonight. I will be babysitting.
Good. Perfect. I will be babysitting, something that she will be doing in the future. Good. And number three, Oscar?
Where will I live in 10 years?
So we're picking between the future perfect or the future continuous.
I think perfect.
So the future perfect would be where will you have lived in 10 years? And the future continuous would be where will you be living in 10 years? So which one is correct?
I think the first one.
Where will you have lived in 10 years?
Yeah.
So it's not wrong, but it's a different question, right? So where will you have lived in 10 years is asking like how many different places will you have lived in the future? So like I have lived in this place, this place, this place.
Okay.
But I think the question is focusing on where you will be currently living in 10 years.
Okay.
So it's going to be the present or the future continuous. So where will you be living in 10 years.
Okay.
Okay, and then what about number 4, Caesar?
They have a lot of work to do. They will won't have finished it for tomorrow.
Perfect, good. So they will not have finished, or they won't have finished it for tomorrow. Good. Number 5, Fernando.
Okay, don't make noise. Don't make a noise after 8. I'll be studying for my exam.
Good. I will be studying for my exam. Perfect. Number 6, Oscar. Sorry, you got all the questions that are a little harder.
Yeah, it's the more difficult.
It definitely is. No worries. Okay.
I don't know.
So
When will have you finished?
Yeah, almost. So when will you have finished?
When will you have finished to do exercise?
Yeah, when will you have finished? Oh, it should be doing. And when we have finished doing the exercises. Good. Okay. Number 7, Caesar.
Let's meet at 20 pound. 20 pounds. Sounds familiar. 20. Let's meet
Yeah,
at 20
it's a
pound.
name.
Okay. I will be sitting next to the door.
Perfect. Good. Okay. Number 8, Fernando.
Okay, many animals will have disappeared in the future.
Good. Perfect. And number 9, Oscar.
Next week we will have enjoyed our holidays.
So next week, what will we be doing next week?
Enjoy.
So it's not talking about something that's completed, right? It's not saying by next week we will have enjoyed our holidays. It's saying what they're going to be doing next week.
Will be enjoying.
Next week we will be enjoying our holidays.
Okay.
Yes, it's a little tricky, right? So it's a really kind of small difference between something that's going to be completed already or something that's going to be a continuous action.
Okay.
Right? So that's why, yeah, it's a little tricky. But, okay. So we're almost out of time. So before we end, any questions at all? Oscar, do you have any questions, any doubts, anything that's not clear?
It's okay. I have to practice a lot, so it's okay.
Okay. Caesar, how are you doing? Questions, doubts?
I'm fine. No, yes, no questions.
Okay, good. And Fernando?
Everything is fine.
Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for coming to class. I hope you learned a little bit more about grammar and ways to project into the future. I would ask all of you, if you have time, to leave me some feedback on my page on Linguistiko. So that can be anything, things that you liked, things that you didn't like, suggestions for future classes, anything at all. And then I would also like to invite all of you to my next class, which is going to be today in 2 hours, where we talk about hypotheticals and conditionals. And then my next class after that is also today in 5 hours, which is going to be about how to form questions. So forming questions in the past, how to ask all the kinds of questions you ever wanted to ask in English. So I hope to see all of you in the future in another class, and thank you so much for coming.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye
thank
bye.
you.
Bye
Okay,
to everyone.
thank you very much.
Oh, sorry. Oscar, what?
Bye bye. Bye to everyone.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Sayonara.
Bye. Bye.